All right, we are live and recording. It is 2:04 on September 3rd, and I'd like to welcome everybody to Reputation Management. Today is kind of a unique class in talking about branding, testimonials, profiles, and more, creating and managing your reputation. Today we're going to be we have two special guests that are going to be sharing with us some of their experience, and it's really an open chat here today. We have Miss Virginia Rogan. Everybody give her some love. And the Robby Stone, hailing from the East office, the East Attic team. So I want to, if you have questions as we go through this, I want you to put this in the chat. As I said, this topic's kind of interesting in the sense of, we talk a lot about branding in real estate, but I don't know that we spend maybe enough time thinking about reputation in some ways, or some of the ways we may be more intentional with that versus just haphazard. And so the reason I've kind of invited Robby and Virginia, I think they both do an incredible job of leading from a really authentic place in their business, and have what I would consider a very strong alliance between who they are and, at least what I know of it, right? And their brand and how that connects to customers and clients. I think they do a beautiful job of that. So that's why I had them as a part of this today. But I know there's many people within Village who do this well. And as I said, invite you to questions and all that. So we're glad you're here. We're going to jump right into this. And Virginia and Robby, is there anything before I kind of share some questions that you'd like to share on the topic, or kind of give us a little bit of maybe how your brand came about, and how you would say that your identity relates to your reputation and brand in real estate? Are you open to start with that, Robby?
Sure.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I am Robby Stone. To kind of give you a little background, I've been in the industry for a little over 5 years now. Been with Village from day one. And I think the choice to join Village ties in with this whole conversation of what I wanted my brand to look like and who I wanted to be in this industry. Village has had and continues to have a really strong connection to the local community, and a heavy focus on being authentic and being more than just like slinging real estate. It's about creating culture and creating community, and getting into the profession myself. I knew that was going to be a huge goal of mine, was, not just selling homes, but selling truly like a lifestyle and a sanctuary and a place that you can build community and invest in the neighborhood that you're a part of. So right off the bat, Village was kind of a no-brainer for me, because that is who Village is. And I think they're continuing to build that and grow that strength. So yeah, I come from and I don't know how deep you want me to go. I can talk. Yeah. Virginia, you say something.
Oh, let's see. Well, I can echo a little bit about what Robby said. And Robby and I, didn't we start like right at the same time at Village?
We were very near the same time, yes.
So yeah, I've been doing this almost 6 years, and Village was a no-brainer, and I chose them because they are a Nashville company. And I liked the size of the company. I liked, where they did business. I also love that they have, expanded to the Franklin area and really, looked at going into different areas. But I feel really good and secure having the Village brand along with me. A lot of people say you need to actually, brand yourself. And what is my brand? My brand is my face, but it is my face with Village. And I rely on Village for a lot. I consider Village my team of people, and that was very important to me. So, and it is a huge part of my brand.
Yeah, love it. And I think, it's so important in choosing that. I love we started in that place, and I kind of want to move where you were going with that, Robby, is if you would, I do want you to go a little bit deep if you're open to it, and sharing a little bit about who you are, or identity of like who you are as a person, and how do you want to be identified in the market. And did you choose that, or was that just organic from, or was it, I mean, I know that's who you are, but did you shift that at all when you got into real estate, or what considerations did you have when going into more of maybe a public style career and persona versus just Robby the magician that you were before real estate?
Well, magic is surprisingly one thing I never did do amongst a wide array of professions. I come from a performance background, and I actually detoured and did sports medicine, was what my degree is in, from Samford University down in Birmingham. So I was going to be a doctor. That was, and this plays into the story of like being who you think you're supposed to be versus being who you are. I very much was on that path because I felt that was what I was supposed to do. And my parents had always made comments about how nice it would be to have a doctor in the family, and being the youngest and the only boy, and on top of that, a people pleaser, that said to me, like, you need to go be a doctor. So I did that. My dad is actually a musician, and that's what he did, and is now a music minister at a church. So it was funny that I was pushed in a very different direction than my natural leaning toward performance and the arts. And maybe it's because he knew how difficult that world is and wanted something different for me, but not his decision to make. So that whole kind of background in performance and the arts and my love for that definitely bled into my kind of outlook on how I would approach real estate. Besides that, hopefully if you've gotten to hang out with me, I like to have a good time. I like to have fun. I feel like life is already hard on its own. And so part of what I hope to bring to the real estate experience is taking it very serious. I am definitely a professional, and I want to know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and how to do it. But also I'm like, this should be fun. Like going through this process, buying a home, creating that space for yourself should be a really enjoyable process. So my kind of focus going into this industry was, I want to make sure I'm providing the absolute best service that I possibly can from a professional level, while simultaneously making this one of the most fun and enjoyable experiences that someone can have. I think we can, and being in this a little bit longer now, I think it's very true that as agents, we can take for granted the scale of what this experience is for people and how rare it is for them. We do this every day. It becomes like old hat, and we're like, okay, sell another house, buy another house. This is something that buyers and sellers do 2, 3, maybe 4 times in their life. So to not respect that and to not make that an experience for them is a disservice. So I knew, that was a big part of what I wanted to bring in my business, is creating an experience for people that they walk away from and think, holy crap, that was such a fun experience. And all I've ever heard about it in the past is how difficult it is. And even if you hit, it's going to be difficult. We've all had those deals, but it's about always shifting the focus toward the goal, and what the ultimate goal of like creating this whole new step in life, reminding yourself and your client of that.
Right.
Good words, Robby. As far as did I make a change? I come from a contract management background prior to this, but prior to that, I am a nature lover, and I like to be outside. I like everything outside. The things I love about Nashville and really that are part of my brand are, greenways, bicycling, backyard chickens, Tennessee parks, all of that. And you'll see that in my social media posting and that sort of thing. But I do come from a contract management background, and Robby is just such a creative person, and I feel like he wants to make the transactions enjoyable. I want them to be enjoyable, but I want them smooth. I want every I dotted, every, T is crossed, and just, it's all about educating my client and making sure they know what to expect, what is coming next, and that they already know about it. They already know what to expect. And, then I remind them. And so that's kind of how I go through the flow of working with someone. As far as, let's see, what was the rest of your question?
I know, I feel like I missed some of it too.
No,
go back.
You're in it and on it there.
Just as far as how I work with people and why they would identify with my brand or who I am or how I portray myself online.
Yeah, I think that what happens is when agents start, there's a lot of consideration about, do I need a logo? Do I have a different social media account? And we'll get some into that, but I wanted to start more so even of what am I going to put out in the marketplace? Because sometimes people have this prior life and then they're starting in and going, do I need to dial it down? Do I need to be less political in my post or sharing, or do I need to kind of be a little bit different than I may have been before? And did that just kind of happen organically, or were you intentional about curating that image or brand?
I'll add to that.
Please.
I don't know that there was a whole lot that I had to change. I did find that I really needed to pay closer attention, because the person standing in front of you in the grocery line could be your next client. The person at the red light could be your client or your client's mother, or, and we should be this way always. But just recognizing that, the public is out there, and I have a public image now. And that's important. And it is something that I do have to take note of as a realtor, that I did not have to, I don't want to say be concerned with, but, social media is just for, fun posting stuff. So, not much really changed, although that was an awareness that I have now that I did not have previously.
Yeah, I think I agree with a lot of that. I don't feel I changed much of who I was coming into this. I think that was very intentional to not let the industry change me. I had kind of seen, and we all know sort of the stereotype of what it means to be a realtor, and what it has to look like. And I knew that I did not fit that. But I also have found in life, most of the time, the stereotypes aren't true for everyone involved in whatever the stereotype is about. And there's an audience and a client for whoever you are. So it was important for me. I feel like we work in a high stress industry, and who you are deep down is going to come out at some point. It just does when stress hits. So if you've presented some version of yourself that's not authentic and not real, you're not going to be able to maintain that when shit goes down. Like it gets tough. And hopefully there's some grace in there too. Like, Lord, we're all human, and it's a high stress job. But I do think it's good to learn, okay, who am I really? Who am I in stress? Who am I in good times? And know yourself well enough to know times that maybe you need to pull back and not respond immediately, or those things that learning about yourself, because this job will pull out every bit of you at some point. So I think for me, it's been intentional and really good for me to just learn how I operate and note it and file it away and learn how to use that in the most beneficial ways.
Mm-hmm.
This is I've never thought about this, but your point, Robby, it illustrates something. This is the gateway career to self-awareness, I think, or should be.
Yeah.
It's like, if you haven't been in therapy, this will put you there. And if you didn't know your strengths and weaknesses, you're going to find them out very quickly in this business. And I joke that this business will attack every weakness you have.
Yeah.
And it will force you to really look at it and feel it and deal with it and recognize how it's affecting you personally and professionally, but how, even like you say, the stress affects your image and ability with others. I know for myself, that when the stress gets super high, and it is often, that I am not at my best. And sometimes I've been known to maybe be more candid than I should be with other agents or people at times. And I just go, really? Even after 18 years. So a great point. How do you feel that you present yourself authentically? Is there things that you do, obviously social media or in your personal dealings with people? How do you feel? It may seem I'm just me, but I think there are things that you both do, maybe even unintentionally, that communicate and share who you are. Can you share ways in which you feel that you may do that, or it just comes out? Virginia, why don't you go if you're open to that?
I always think to myself, and I'm sure I've said this to people too, is that I am in the business of meeting people.
Yes.
And that's a fun thing to do. So, how do I portray myself? It's just, I want to know people. I want to know about them. I want to know what they like, what they, and you can do that. I do that in a variety of ways, whether it's meeting someone for lunch or going for a walk or joining a group or going on a, midnight kayak trip, or just sharing things, in common with other people and learning about them and being in the business of meeting and knowing people. And that's just the lifestyle. I mean, that
is our business.
Your mother told me, this is, the realtor hat is on all the time. And so, yes. Anyway.
Yeah, I have to remind myself sometimes, especially in these times where things change in our accessibility to people, but we're not in the business of selling houses. We're in the business of meeting people. This is a sales job. And if you don't really love people, and people go, I love houses and I love people, I'm like, well, do this long enough, you'll hate both. But, we really are in that business. And I think that, as a observer of you, Virginia, there's just a general spirit and energy that I think there is a lot of symmetry in the way that you and Robby are, in that you're just really beautiful, kind people. And I don't say that because you're on here. Just you both are happy, engaging, pleasant, kind professionals in a business that, like you say, is very, very stressful. And you all have done it with great grace. Robby, how about you? I know, you have done some really amazing marketing and fun things of putting yourself out there. I follow you and see some of your endeavors with Airbnb, your cabin and cottage out in East Tennessee, and any things that you've done intentionally, organically, to kind of share with the world, like, hey, this is who I am, and bringing more of you to the experience.
Yeah, I love social media and marketing and promotion. I think that's been my creative outlet in this industry since I've kind of, due to just time constraints, had to step away from some of the more artistic things I've done in the past. I think I've really harnessed kind of the creative side of me to contribute to social media endeavors and just design endeavors. And I didn't mention this, but outside of just performance and the arts, I served for 7 years in restaurants. And I will tell you right now, that is by far the best life and real estate training I ever got. We are servers of a different product, and it's essentially the same job I was doing, just a slower pace and a larger product. So I think it's good to remind ourselves of that, because, the money is good and there are tons of egos in this industry. but ultimately, like, we're here to serve people. Um, and that is a humble job and a humble role. And so I always remind myself and bring myself back to server Robby in those days where I'm like, I'm doing this because I care about you and I want you to have a great experience, whether it's a meal or whatever. Um, but to the kind of how I present myself, I think social media has played a big role because you can be you on there. It's a double-edged sword because sometimes it does not go your way, or some people, I think you talked about kind of, do you draw a line? I have a separate account for personal and business. I don't love being on my personal account. Like, I don't use it very much. So I don't think, if I weren't in real estate, I don't know that I would use social media that often. So for me, it's kind of been easy to make that separation. But I do think there's a line where you need to realize and remind yourself, and I do this, I try to do this in my personal life as well, is just remember we are serving a wide range of people and experiences. And though we disagree, and I do with a lot of people, respect them to a point. Like, if they're being disrespectful and hurtful, obviously that's a totally different scenario. But, you know, we're here to serve, and I feel like the right people, I'm going to put enough of myself and what I believe and what I feel out there that if somebody is on this far other side of who I am, they're probably not going to choose me to work with. Like, sorry, if you don't want to work with a guy who's married to a guy, like, I'm not your guy. So I'm not going to hide those parts of me that are so important. But I'm also not going to, like, put opinions necessarily out there through my business social media. I'm going to support what's just and right in this world for sure, though. And if you have a problem with that, then I'm not right for you. And I think there is that point of finding that balance of being enough yourself and standing up for what you believe in. And knowing that, I think as long as you do it, knowing that, you know, it may be polarizing and somebody may not choose to work with you. If you're okay with that, which I am, do it. But also remember that you're a professional.
Yeah.
Robby, this is so good. This is exactly where I wanted us to get to with this talk about authenticity and making really conscious choices about how much of yourself you put out there. And that's why, you know, this topic about brand and reputation management are kind of like two sides of the same coin. And we really have to balance that. And I think a lot of us tend to do the wider thing where we're pretty PC to make sure we don't run anyone away. And I would just really love to hear a conversation about how intentional people are about making that choice, about sharing who you are and what you think. And, you know, is social media just marketing for us, or is it really a place that you interact with people in your life? Or do we forfeit that when we become realtors because we're so public? I'd really love to hear people talk about that.
I can add what, you know, my thoughts on that. And I guess a lot of, so I only have, you know, I have a business Facebook page because somewhere along the way, if you needed to advertise or something, you had to have a business page. So I have a business page. But Robby's creative outlet is to use social media. I kind of have this love-hate with social media, and it is, you know, marketing yourself, in my opinion, is work. So I hire it out. My Instagram is both personal and business, because the subject came up of, you know, whether you wanted to have two different pages, and I didn't, because when I post something personal, it's okay. I want it. I don't care if it goes out to my business sphere or my personal sphere. So that's kind of how I portray myself on social media. I choose to, I don't post anything about, I don't post politically. I don't put religious posts, anything like that. I really choose not to put anything on social media that could be divisive. If someone hates a greenway, I posted about it, but I have chosen
highly
to,
contested.
yeah, no,
Those greenways.
I've chosen to take that wide path, Anne, like you say, and it's not that I'm trying to avoid anything. I just don't do that.
So let's take the opposite side of the coin. Do we miss something by not being in more of a niche, in not being more authentic? Do we miss a whole group of people that would flock to us if we were just saying whatever we thought and doing whatever we thought?
I don't think so.
I don't know. Honestly, I think maybe. And if you're okay with that risk, take it. I think there's some agents who have made that decision, and it's probably worked out for them, and they work with the people who are drawn to that. I would say be very careful about who you want to draw to you, and carefully, anything I'd post that may be potentially polarizing. One, I just don't know that social media is like the best place to accomplish anything that is nuanced. It's just tough, but I have done it and tried to do it for stuff I really believe in and feel strongly about. But it's always on my personal page. I would say my business page, I keep business. I think I made that decision from the get-go. I do have a separate Instagram, separate Facebook, and they stay very separate for a number of reasons. But
on your business page, Robby, are you posting personal things in the sense of it's not all about just houses, is it? And real estate?
No, not all. I mean, I think that would get a little boring, but I'll talk about, occasionally I'll post about various restaurants I've gone to, or it will tie into something that a broader audience can relate to. So I don't do like a lot of family posts necessarily, or like family visits or stuff like that. But I will post if, about Corey and I's like jaunt into home renovation, because that related, or investing in real estate in a different area, or short-term rentals, or stuff that I do personally, personal investments, or anything that relates to the community or Nashville. Absolutely, I'll post. I think if we're just posting, this house is for sale, I got this contract, that could quickly just become unhelpful. I think it's good to remind people that you're working and a successful agent, but for that to be the only thing you post, I want to add value in what I post to anyone, whether they're looking for a house or not. I want them to be able to occasionally read something and be like, oh, nice, I can use that, even though I'm not working with Robby.
Yep. And I appreciate Anne's contributions and continued Q&A. This topic was the kind of the brainchild of Ann Nilsson, who's on here and just was sharing. And back when we were doing some education formation for the year, and so so she has the most I think direct insight into kind of the vision of this. And as I had mentioned earlier, part of her context and in some of her connection with her daughters here, her children, is sharing kind of the generational differences in who you connect to. And I think, that I realize, I think I said to her yesterday, I'm feeling my age in that, I'm 46 and I am not 22 or 25 when I started, and like, the Chad Wollers that's rocking condos and hanging out in the Gulch and, and drinking craft cocktails. Like, this is me now. So my brand or image has changed, and I've aged with my clientele too. But I recognize, and I look at platforms like TikTok, who I watch and enjoy some of that, but I almost was like just over the curve of Instagram, Twitter. Like, I'm Facebook, and I do some Instagramming and I like it, but I realize like that's not it doesn't respond, or it's not an audience necessarily that I'm attracting, but that I think generationally, that audience wants a lot more personal connection with their people. And can you speak to this a little bit about some of what Livy was sharing, and as far as feeling connected to a brand, like why, like we look at Tom's, or we look at again, showing my age here, but like brands that are socially responsible, and why people will choose to work with them because they really understand more about their mission and their purpose, rather than just the vanilla get it done person.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ted, maybe you can post the notes that I sent to you from Livy. For those of you who don't know, I have 3 kids, one that's 21, about to turn 22 next week, and a pair of 16-year-olds. And so they're very tech savvy. They've grown up like immersed in this world. And that's the portal through which they experience their whole life. It sounds crazy, but they spend more time socially connected than they do in real life, like truly. And it's very crazy. It's really crazy. And you can say all you want about parental supervision, et cetera, and this is really truly how they relate. And it's no accident that YouTube is like, bigger than Google. That's where they spend their time. It's their dictionary, it's their everything. And so, I've talked to Livy and Charlotte and Sebastian about this, and the way they interact with brands and where they interact with brands is so different. And this is like a millennial Gen Z kind of generation, and these are going to be our clients. They're huge. They're a huge section of the demographics, right? And so I talked to Livy about this, and she said a whole bunch of things. And again, Ted, maybe you can post that in our chat here, just so people can. I sent it to you in an email. Remember?
I have it. I have it up. It just limits the amount of characters, so I have to do it in sections. And I didn't know if you wanted people to be reading while you were sharing.
Oh, got it. No, that's fine. Okay, so they talk about, they really want to interact with a brand that values who they are individually. So there's a lot of niche marketing, right? Because everybody can be their own little personal weirdo, and there's a brand for them. And it's really kind of awesome. They're an extremely tolerant generation. They were open to every kind of person, every kind of walk of life, every skin color, every gender, everything. And it's really, really cool. They're going to save the world. It's really cool to listen to them. But they, she talks about how it's important for them to care about what she cares about, that they offer value outside of their product. One of the, she uses the example of like coffee, and says, we want to know where those beans come from. She spends a lot of money on Ben and Jerry's because they pay their people well, right? She can be totally broke, but she won't buy cheap ice cream because it's immoral. It's like, that's kind of how they think, which I think is really interesting. And I think she keeps talking about how you need to stand for something, which is why I'm so curious about our generally PC projection into the marketplace as realtors. Everybody doesn't do it. There's certain people with certain reputations that are a little wilder than others, but generally we're pretty PC in our projection to the marketplace because we don't want to turn away business. And what I find so interesting about my kids is the more niched people are, the more they like them, and the more fanatical they are in their support of them. And so it's just kind of an interesting consideration for us. So she said, we want them to meet us where we are. Don't be cheesy. Don't act like you know everything because we have Google. She literally says stuff like that. She's like, you need to care about the people I care about, even if they're dramatically different from me. So if you insult somebody that's my friend, that is a demographic that you don't appreciate, I'm not going to appreciate you. So, and she says, if you have the choice, lean liberal, because it's always better to seem like you appeal to more people than to kind of rule people out and try to be exclusive based on one thing or another. I'm trying to think what else she said. She said a lot of things.
I'm curious of, sorry.
Go ahead. No, please.
No, I was just going to say, I'm curious of like, I think they're also a very smart generation that can spot bullshit. And if you're faking, they're
100%.
going to know.
She says that she has a whole riff about being authentic, and that's why I was kind of digging into that with you, Robby, because I think you do that really well. And maybe I just see a lot of your personal stuff. I probably see both of your pages, but I really appreciate that you share really authentically about what matters to you and what you believe in, and you do it respectfully. And then it's like, you suffer no fools, but you do it respectfully. And I think that probably contributes to your success. That's just my take. And I just think in marketing generally, if you step back from real estate in particular and just look at marketing on the whole of any industry, people who are general marketers are not successful. People who choose a lane become successful. And that's old school marketing. And now if you take a look at younger generations who live in their tech world, they want people who are specialized. They want people to really amplify their personality. I think that's probably a good way to put it. Amplify your personality and amplify your value system. We care about your values. Remember, these are the people who are inheriting climate change and think the Earth is going to cease to exist in 50 years. They're scared. You know, they've lived through, you know, the Great Recession, and here we are again, and college loans, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's like they're looking for people who care about them, because they've really, as a generation, as you know, a few micro generations here have been screwed, you know, so they really value different things.
Yeah. And for me personally, thank you. I'm glad that things I post occasionally come off, hopefully empathetic and nuanced, but direct. That's always my goal.
Yeah.
And I'd say that's not necessarily an intentional thing. I have just, through my personal experience, had to learn to know what I know and why I know it, and stand up for myself. And when you're doing that with your own family, everybody else, it doesn't matter. Like, so for me, it's like, I don't, I've had to really work hard to know who I am and what I believe and why I believe it. So I'm not afraid to have those conversations. I think it always needs to be prefaced with respect, though, and with clarity and with a gentleness, because I know what I was brought up to believe and think. And so I have this weird perspective on a lot of current hot topic conversations. So I'm able to sort of draw from my empathy for my upbringing and what that looked like versus what I've learned and who I am now, to sort of find this meeting ground where hopefully conversation can be born from that. I don't love shouting through social media, but I love engaged conversation.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think what you're just describing too, those tools in an ever increasingly, what's the word, kind of public arena that we all operate in, because we're realtors and we're online, you need to take those skills to your clients, right? And we're going to run into all kinds of people, and you have to have the hard conversations, because you're going to be around people who don't necessarily think or believe like you do. And then just internally with our business, there are a lot of hard conversations that we have to have related to real estate, you know, whether it's commission or lowering prices or, you know, negotiating or whatever it is. So I think those skills come in handy. And back to the younger generations, they demand those hard conversations. There is no letting anybody off anymore. And they're very smart, like you said, and they will respectfully be in your face about it. And they won't do business with people who don't have a satisfactory answer. So it's kind of a whole new playing field.
Yeah. Well, and I think it starts in the first conversation you have with them, of giving them the freedom to talk about things that are maybe usually kept private, or things that are potentially difficult, and just letting them know up front, hey, this is a safe place to have conversations about your finances, because when you get into your finances, it leads to your relationships, which leads to your long-term goals and short-term goals, which leads to all
100%.
these things that are very real and very personal and very private that we are privy to because of the nature of our jobs. So letting them know that in my first conversations with buyers from the get-go, I let them know that, one, I respect that place that they've, should they choose to work with me, that they allow me into. And I tell them that they're welcome to have those vulnerable conversations, and also give them warning that it's okay if it feels vulnerable and uncomfortable. It's going to. And just give them the freedom right off the bat to ask questions and know that, I recognize that there are some things about this process that may be vulnerable. And I respect that, and I'm here for that, and I am anticipating that. I think part of the reason that we're afraid of vulnerability sometimes is because we don't know how it's going to be received or if it's okay. So giving them that permission right from the get-go has proved really helpful for me and my buyer clients, especially, and first-time home buyers particularly.
Yeah. I've never really had that conversation with someone just about how vulnerable they have to be. We definitely talk about finances, but a lot of times I let them handle that privately with the lender. I definitely talk numbers with them and share that information with them. And as far as identifying, I guess, social things or things that young people identify with these days. I'm not really sure how I would approach that. I mean, I want to be in the business of helping people buy and sell the home, the place they live, the place they're going to spend most of their time. And if it's important to them that they do business with someone who has a particular thought or stand or whatever, they are welcome to ask me questions. They're welcome to Google me all they want. And they'll find what they're looking for, or they won't.
Yeah, and I explain to people too, I lead that into a confidentiality conversation that, hey, this is a small town and people know people. And if you see me in a restaurant or talking to someone that you know, please know that nothing that you and I speak about will ever be shared. And that, things that, that I really covet that space between our relationship. And so I think in one way or another, I've said to people like, hey, this is a very stressful process. I probably don't stress enough that it should be fun because I probably scare them more than anything, and that like, this is kind of hell, and tears may happen. And my job is to help you, let you know when it's kind of like flying. I use that analogy is that we're going to go on an airplane ride and, it's not comfortable and it's going to get you to a great destination, but I'll let you know when it's time to put the seatbelt on. Otherwise it's time for peanuts and bad drinks and, and somebody that smells next to you. Like we'll get there. But, and there's so many people and pieces that are going on that in the cockpit and on the ground crew that you don't see or know that are happening. And so I think that that's one way in which, I don't know necessarily it's reputation management per se, but I'm very transparent with them and candid, I guess, about the stress and challenges of this. And, so I think that plays into just who I am personally, that people know I'm a little bit, I can be a little bit crass and wide open and I'm funny and all those things, but I wouldn't say that I edit too much, and I'm sure I've paid some prices for that. I definitely know with the younger generations, like I'm with you, Virginia, I try to play to a pretty wide audience, but I know I slip on the banana occasionally, and like I'll respond to a political post, or I'll, You know, I've put a Black Lives Matter on my profile picture, and it's like, you know, that in thinking of that even today, it's like, should I shift that, right? I mean, how balancing how passionate I am about a personal project that could, you know, as shocking as it is to me, like that statement could still be divisive to some people, and I think their misinterpretation or all the stuff about, you know, Kaepernick kneeling or whatever it is, right? Like just small nuances where if retweeted or posted, that it could, people are making some judgments by that, right? It may not be that they're going to stop working with me, but they may just go, he's not our people, right? And I think this business is about, you know, trying to create those relationships, but those that are authentic. So.
See, I lean more toward being totally fine if it's not my people.
Yeah.
I think I'm 100% okay with that. And it probably stems from my personal experience with people and how, you know, not being that way led to some really painful experiences. So yeah, it is interesting though. And I think that's a personal decision in how you run your business and also how strongly you feel about certain things. I think we're all under this misguided notion that we've got to have opinions about every single thing, and really strong ones, and really right or left, for lack of a better word. And it's dumb. Like, there's no way that we can all have these such extreme opinions about every topic and every subject, but we're challenged to know where we stand. And it's, to me, unfair. So there are things that I'm passionate about, but I'm also going to learn about every side of something if I'm going to have a stance on it. And then there's some things where I'm just like, that's not something I personally deal with, and I don't have an opinion. Trust the person that's actually dealing with this issue. And I feel like that's okay.
Yeah, no, for real, I think it is. I want to transition here into two things that I want to cover today, and that is being aware of what your online brand is. And I don't know, if either of you use, where is my page here? I'm going to go ahead and share screen here, and you can see Brand Yourself. Do either of you use Brand Yourself or have gone there?
No. I don't.
So Ann had shared this, and this is a great place to put your name in and get your free scan of looking at your online reputation and protecting your online privacy. There is a paid service to this as well, but you know I'm remiss. I try to keep all my profiles consistent and up to date, but I can tell you I've been LinkedIn. I know I'm hearing is reemerging as the hot ticket. And you know what I've had to recognize is I gotta be mindful to not always chase the hot ticket. You know, yes, my brand could be more consistent across more platforms. Sure, I should be on Twitter and TikTok, but I had, for my own mental health, to say, this is what I'm comfortable and willing to do. And I've had great business because of it. And I know I'm missing a lot of people because of that, but I'm not trying to build a mega team or, you know, be the poster child for that. But I do think these things are important, and that we all do need to make sure that we Google ourselves and consider resources like this that may, because it's interesting, if you haven't done a forewarn on yourself, that's also an interesting tool to see. You know, and for those that aren't familiar, forewarn is a system that we have, is a tool that you have available to you free of charge through Village, and you can put in someone's phone number, and it will give you all of their criminal history, address history, vehicles, addresses. Yeah, it's a great safety tool, and know that, you know, those things are public record, and people will Google you and look that up. But so that's one tool. And the second, I wanted to, do y'all have anything about that?
No, I am excited to go on it.
Yeah, I looked it up really quickly, but I didn't start reading it. But I'm excited to see what kind of results come from that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm going to explore that further too. And then the other is testimonials. And I know, can you share a little bit about how you all use testimonials, or and where you're posting them or leveraging them?
I can add, I've had kind of cycles of testimonials, and I know it's important to collect them. You know, part of me says it's so self-serving to collect what people say about you, because of course you only want the good stuff. I do have a way of collecting testimonials, and every time I close a transaction, which I could be doing it along the way, but it usually happens when I close and my clients get a letter and I ask them to review me. What I do most recently is ask them to review me on Zillow, because I figure that's where people go to look mostly for homes. Zillow, for a while I was using Yelp, but before this class, I thought I would go and see what the reviews were on Yelp. And I guess Yelp just makes them go away after a while. Maybe if you don't pay for their advertising or something.
It hides them.
Well, yeah, so I no longer have reviews on Yelp. But one thing I didn't like about Yelp is that if someone makes a review and they're not a Yelp user, it goes in as a not recommended review. And I'm like, I don't need that. So I think I did at one time go on to Yelp and just copied all of those testimonials. I use them in the packets, buy or sale packets that I have for people. And occasionally I may have posted one to social media or something like that. But that's really how I collect them and how I use them.
Yeah. Robby, how about you? Do you use testimonials? You ask for those, and how do you share?
Yeah, absolutely. We send out an email, kind of a prep for closing email, and in that we also
is we Robin?
Yes. So we send that out right before closing. It asks for reviews there, and then after closing, we send them all their documents in a zip file. And we ask for it there if they haven't yet left it. And then a month later, we send it again. So we're pretty persistent about getting reviews. And I have gotten 5 easily clients off of Yelp reviews.
Wow.
So I think, and kind of my goal from the get-go is like, if I do an amazing job, I've being in the restaurant industry, seen how reviews can make or break you. So my thing was like, I'm going to give incredible service and do it so well that they will only leave me a good review and they will want to leave me a review. And so far it's been really good. I don't know how many I have necessarily, but I think it's pretty significant. And I think they want to help you. If you do a good job, like they don't mind you asking them. Make it easy on them. I send them the links to my Yelp, Facebook, and Yelp, Facebook, and Zillow. Send them those links and just say, hey, copy and paste the exact same review on all 3 of these. And then I have prompt questions as well to help them kind of think through, okay, what should I leave a review about? We say like, how was Robby at this, that? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Because sometimes it's hard to just pull out of thin air like why an experience was good. So helping them along has been beneficial. And then I use them on, sorry, I use them on social media for sure. I created a new thing lately where it's a hug on a mug, and it's a picture of me with a mug, and the review is on the mug. So that's been fun. Just trying to find creative ways.
So you put their review of you on a mug with your photo and send it to them?
Oh no, that would be fun. No, that'd be weird. I do just digitally on a mug. Wouldn't it be strange to get a review that you wrote? I don't know.
Yes. Very weird.
I think it'd be strange. No, it's just
so
like
great, and I just want you to know.
I want you to know what you think of me, and I think it's great. Let me just
how awesome I am.
I like it. Let me remind you how awesome this was every time you take a sip of Joe. Hey, speaking of that, though, I love this strategy. Robin, would you, and I won't ask Robby, but Robin, would you be open to sharing the prompt or maybe that little template request that you send out? Would you be open to sharing that proprietary nugget?
Robin, I'm fine with you sharing that.
Robin's muted, so we're going to take that as an absolute yes. We love that.
She will. No, this is what I post. I don't know if you can see it. So it's just on like Instagram, and then it's
that's fantastic. Oh my God.
The review on there.
Winning. There's a great nugget from today. I love it.
So can
awesome.
I throw in one thing here about the reviews? And I think maybe Testimonial Engine is the one that does this, or maybe this is part of their mission. They say they will only post the testimonials that like the 4 or 5 star review. And then they don't post the ones that are a 3, 2, or 1. But the whole point in collecting all this information is to figure out where the gaps are in your service, right? It doesn't feel good, but it's good information. And so I think Testimonial Engine, I think they're the ones that do it. And I think it's interesting for that reason.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I just wanted to tag on to something we were talking about earlier is, you know, those conversations about, you know, what's important to you? Does this process make you feel vulnerable? What are you concerned about going into this process, et cetera? I think that's it's really important to think about those conversations as being, okay, I was going to use a word, but let me find a more polite one. They can be, okay, what's the word I want? You can preclude a lot of bad reviews by asking people about their expectations up front and what those concerns are and what's important to them up front, so that you can work to those expectations, and then the reviews should follow, right? And that's a way that you manage your reputation as well. And I think when we have those conversations or don't have those conversations, we're not necessarily thinking about our online reputation, but I think they're connected.
Yeah. Well, it's 3 o'clock, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time, so I'm going to try to bring us to a close here and call for any additional questions or sharing. I think this has been super helpful, just kind of an open chat and a bit alternative to the traditional real estate speak, but I really appreciate it. Any follow-up conversation or questions or comments from Robby or anyone on the call? Virginia, yes, please, go ahead. You're muted. Hold on. You're muted, Virginia. There
I'm
you
sorry,
go.
my internet totally failed. So
Okay, mine did too.
to make sure that you were going to send Anne's comments from her daughters, kids.
Yeah,
because I would love to see those.
They're really incredible.
It's
Anne,
very
are you
interesting.
opposed-
Yeah.
Anne, are you opposed to me posting that to the Village exclusive? Just because it's very difficult to share that in the chat.
No, I'm not opposed at all. Just so that you understand, I copied Olivia's side of text that I've had with her, so that it might seem a little jumbled, but she may be answering a question or commenting on something I said. So just if it's clear to you, yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Yes,
I appreciate.
There's some really cool insight in that.
Mm-hmm.
It's so I will share those, and I'll do it on the Village exclusive.
Good.
And then Robby, I know, and Robin's muted there. If you are open to sharing that, if you want, you can just do that within the small community, or if you're so daring or wanting, you can share it with the broader one. Of Robin smirking there. Would you rather keep it private, Robin? You're muted. Listen, you can't be on the attic and talking like you're muted. Come back, Robin.
I think she's muted. I think, yeah, we'll discuss like how much information the team is okay sharing. I think it'll be fine. We'll figure out.
Well, I think you've got a great system going there. And, you know, I think that I know you all have been open to share certain things, and we certainly respect proprietary things that you all do. So if you'd be so willing, I'm going to put that post out as a follow-up to this reputation management with links to the 2 sites that I put. I'm going to put that on the Village exclusive. So maybe if you're open to it, you can put it in the comments on the Village exclusive, and that way people can look out for that there. All right. Well, I think that brings us to a close. I appreciate all of you so much. Give some love to Virginia and Robby, and especially to Ann Nilsson for bringing this topic and writing all the structure and content for that. Thank you so much, Ann, for what you've done for that. So everybody have a great afternoon. go Google yourself and clean up your reputation. Go get them, folks.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.